you are going to play me at the collision.
Fine. You're seeing two of the best teams of all time. We won one, they won one. Let's let this third one decide it once and for all.
On today's show, the Black Widow movie has a director's shortlist. Will it be a prequel? Will it take place in Poughkeepsie? We have a new breaking news on Bumblebee's presence at Comic-Con, and Summer of '84 comes out. Did Jimmy quit? Did Joey get married? Movie Talk starts right now.
Wait, I remember Summer of '84.
Summer of '69 was the Bryan Adams tune, and then 15 years later, is she still waiting for him on her mama's porch? Does anybody get that reference? Well, that's what we're here for on Collider Movie Talk. That is John Rocha of Schenectady fame. Over there is Poughkeepsie's own Jeff Sneider. Thank you guys for tuning in today, gentlemen. Jeff Sneider and I got to go see a movie last night. Rocha, did you go see Ant-Man and the Wasp for the fourth time?
I did not. I actually went to see Uncle Drew because I didn't catch it this weekend. What an enjoyable film! If you love The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh and Fast Break, this is your kind of movie. Let me just tell you, if you remember,
did you pick up any basketball pointers, Rocha?
I don't need any.
Were you taking notes
to beat you? I don't need any, Sneider.
I don't know. We keep hearing things about Rocha's knee, and as we've been discussing before the show, he may need to go see Kawhi Leonard's uncle in New York to get the final diagnosis on that. Jeff Sneider, we saw the first Purge last night. I'm sure we'll have a review up on Schmoes Know later on today.
Yeah,
and then also,
are we allowed to talk about it? Is there an embargo? I don't even know.
I don't know. That's the.
I guess it opens today.
I think 12 hours from now the Purge actually begins. So we better get our review.
I better get home, man.
Before then, and if we luckily would survive the first Purge, then we might be on tap to see a Black Widow standalone movie starring Scarlett Johansson. And the fun about the Black Widow movie is we don't know anything about it. We don't know who the director is going to be, although we do now have a shortlist of directors. This is by Scarlett Johansson's doing, narrowing down a list of directors according to Deadline, saying that Cate Shortland is atop the list. It also includes Amma Asante, Kimberly, Peirce, and Maggie Betts. Justin Kroll over at Variety stated in a tweet that Shortland will most likely get that gig, and one of the reasons may be is because we also have news of another Scarlett Johansson movie, and that would be Rub Tug, and that is a film that is based on a true story. It's said to have an American Hustle-like feel, and it's directed by Rupert Sanders. So there's a lot of information to parse in here about Scarlett Johansson's career, Jeff Sneider. Let's start with the Black Widow stuff. First of all, who is going to get the directing gig for Black Widow, and when is this movie going to see the light of day?
It sounds like it's going to be Cate Shortland. I mean, that's two trades now that have come out and sort of called her the undisputed favorite. So who am I to argue against that? As far as timing, I'd imagine maybe the soonest that this could go into production, I would say, is next summer, next fall. So maybe we could see it by 2020, but that may be a stretch. I'm not sure when Phase 4 begins.
Phase 4 beginning, it's an interesting concept because, again, we have no idea what's going to happen at the end of the next Infinity War movie, but we know they're setting up Captain Marvel. We know Spider-Man has a movie in production. Obviously, Black Panther and Doctor Strange, these are kind of franchises that have just launched, so you know they're not going anywhere. Do you see a Black Widow standalone as setting up another tentpole franchise for the MCU going forward, or does it make more sense that the Black Widow movie is either a prequel to the first time we met Natasha Romanoff, or it's wedged somewhere in between the movies that we've already seen?
I do not think you're going to see a franchise. I think if Black Widow comes to fruition, you're going to see a one movie, like a one-off, like a standalone. I could see Marvel taking a page from DC and DC's plan to do these standalones in order to entice another level of talent that doesn't want to get locked into a long-term contract.
See, Rocha, I can see the MCU taking a page out of their own book and making a movie that is primarily based on the Black Widow character, whether it's a prequel or not, and making it in the vein of a Winter Soldier, which is it tied into the MCU, and it had a lot of that big cataclysmic feel, but it also felt like a small spy movie, and I think that's perfect for the character of Romanoff, and Scarlett Johansson clearly enjoys playing her, and I think that you can have a lot of stories in that isn't just necessarily limited to a one-off movie. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that too. This thing shouldn't be a prequel. It should be just an adventure. And you can set it wherever you want to set it. And we got her backstory in Civil War, how she was created, how she became this. So maybe something happens that takes her away on a separate mission. Why not? Hawkeye gets to go back home to his family. Ant-Man's doing his thing, stuck for 2 years in that house. So the Avengers can break off and do their own adventures. We saw Thor drifted off into Civil War as well, trying to figure out who's got the stones. So there's that can happen all around, and you can bring in other people that are still Avengers to be part of it. I think you bring in another female Avenger or another character, a female character there to kind of make it a little bit of a buddy cop thing.
Movie, I like that.
Yeah, that would work to come down to get her to what she needs to figure and the mission and everything involved. And it could still tie in some small way into the overall arc of whatever's happening in Phase 4. But I agree with you. I think the sooner the better. You got to get this done. And I love Cate Shortland as the choice because I saw Somersault randomly one afternoon when I had something, and I'd read a review from someone, and I went to see it. It was a fantastic film, really interesting exploration of a young woman coming into her own sexually and leaving her house, a terrible house. It's an Australian film. Abby Cornish is the star. This is the thing that launched her, and she was fantastic in the film, a great score and soundtrack as well. I was really surprised. So if she brings that kind of rawness and believability to it, I think she can make a great Black Widow film as well.
Neither one of you guys would be up for a Black Widow prequel if they could pull it off, because I'm in. I would like to see more of that backstory. I would like to see exactly the breaking point that Natasha Romanoff had with whatever her life was versus whatever her life was now. And we've gotten hints of that in the MCU already, and I think that's an interesting story, and it's a good litmus test for the brass at the MCU to say, okay, we could launch Black Widow standalone movies, not just a movie prequel.
I don't know. First of all, I just speaking to the multiple sequels of Black Widow or whatever, I don't think that she wants to do that. She's already done her time in the MCU. She's already made a ton of movies, so I don't see that happening. As far as the prequel goes, I could see flashbacks within another movie, but an entire prequel, I don't want to see. I think she's got this. Sounds terrible. I think she's a little too old.
That's not bad. It's not bad though, with the de-aging technology that Jeff Sneider hates, that Rocha and I love, that the MCU has been pioneering of late. Yeah, but you could. I'm trying to write your movie with you. I'm trying to say that we could have a movie that takes place in the future or in the normal timeline of the MCU, and you could have flashback scenes.
Okay,
I mean, look, I think Scarlett Johansson is just fine. I think you could. You don't need to de-age Scarlett Johansson. I think you could change her hair. You could do things to make her seem like she's younger. That's not that hard to. It's not de-aging Michael Douglas.
Right. But I think what it is, if go ahead, what were you going to say?
No, nothing.
If I work in effects, right, and I go into my office and I say, what's on my slate today? And it says de-aging Michael Douglas. I'm like, oh, God, hey, honey, it's going to be a late one. But if I go in and I say I got to de-age Scarlett Johansson, I'm going to be done by lunch. This is going to be a piece of cake.
You better cut out your ageism, man. You better cut it out. He still looks good. He still looks good. The idea of using Scarlett, doing the de-aging, yeah, I can see flashbacks. Absolutely not a problem there. I think what it has to be told here, I think Scarlett herself doesn't want to get locked into a trilogy. Of all the actors that are involved in the MCU, Scarlett goes and does these smaller independent films. We're going to talk about this Rub Tug. She likes to do these films. She likes to expand her. She's an actress. And so for her to lean into being into one of these films like Chris Evans has or like Chris Hemsworth has, it's not her MO necessarily. So I think she wants to do a Black Widow film because she probably feels like she should have had these offshoots already. So the fact that they're finally coming around to it, I think speaks to the MCU finally waking up and realizing they had to do a Black Widow film. It's a positive. Let her do a really good one that's incisive. You can go back and forth in time, whatever you want to do. But then that's it. If you want to do it, I think you'd have to really talk her into a trilogy. And it's a lot of work. And I don't think she necessarily wants to jump into something like that.
All right, well, let's have a happy ending for this story and talk about Rub Tug, because Rub Tug is the next movie that Scarlett Johansson's working on. And this also, according to Deadline, is a new Regency won the auction. This movie had a bidding war attached to it. And now it's, like I said, it's an American Hustle, like true story. Listen to some of the details. I hadn't heard any of this stuff. It's a fact-based story of a woman who flourished in a male-dominated business of massage parlors and prostitution by essentially taking on the physical identity of a man. Her name is Jean Marie Gill. She was a larger-than-life character. She took on the mob and became the crime kingpin of the 1970s Pittsburgh through her empire of illicit massage parlors and an anabolic steroids ring that helped fuel the Pittsburgh Steelers NFL dynasty of the 1970s. But Cougar doesn't want to hear this. The Steelers were hopped up on steroids before anybody else was, all the while cross-dressing and leaning on her allies in the gay community to help her grow her empire. And it's her fiery romance with her girlfriend Cynthia that truly defines her and forms the emotional core of the story. This sounds fascinating. You say it's an American Hustle-like story. I say American Hustle wishes it had this kind of drama attached to it. Yeah. Rocha, you up for this movie?
I am, actually. And, it's really funny because we get into these kind of characters, these larger-than-life characters that become successful in business, and then they become interesting characters or interesting fodder for movies, right? We saw this in Blow, American Hustle, numerous other ones. American Made recently, same thing, right? Gets involved. These people who, it seems to be okay to be a criminal as long as you do it really big and you go against the government. And this is and we don't see a lot of female-led films like this, so I like this idea. Plus, if you want to do something, go and Google this person's name and Cynthia. Google that, and you'll see a picture of them in black and white. You're like, holy crap. I don't know how Scarlett's going to look like this person because she is stout. She's like a box, this person. She, I think transgender or whatever she was making. There's rumors that she was making the transition herself. I mean, she married a woman, and so there was all of this involved with it. Plus, she's involved with the Steelers. And Makuga's in the movie. Makuga was a runner for her back growing up in Pittsburgh. I know he was. So I don't know who they're going to cast as a young Josh Makuga.
Did John Makuga Honda dealership ever sell Cynthia a car?
That's what I want to know. Involved with the Steel. But this has the makings of a really interesting film. And I wonder how much participation the NFL or the Steelers or any of the logos are going to be involved. I just wonder. And
Jeff
you get
Sneider?
a cameo from Terry Bradshaw, maybe.
I said it yesterday on the news piece. I think this sounds like Rupert Sanders kind of getting a little sick of doing the big budget thing. He did Snow White. He did Ghost in the Shell with Scarlett. So clearly she had a good working experience with this guy. And it sounds like this is going to be his pain and gain. This real life crime tale that was Michael Bay's foray into like serious filmmaking, I suppose. I think it sounds cool. I hope that Rupert Sanders can lend his visual style and flourishes to this movie to spice it up a bit. And yeah.
Scarlett Johansson is one of the producers on the upcoming movie. One of the executive producers, Ethan Irwin, ladies and gentlemen,
That's
from
right.
the Schmodown. We know Ethan. He is a beast. All right, we move on to our next story, and that is Matt Damon and John Krasinski are going to be involved in the Marc Rich tale, The King of Oil, over Universal. If you're not sure who Marc Rich was, he was a fugitive billionaire for a long time until Bill Clinton's last day in office. He pardoned him, although Rich kind of stayed on the run in Switzerland until the time of his death in the year 2013. Matt Damon is set to star as Marc Rich, and John Krasinski's production company is working on this movie, and it's said Krasinski might eventually direct this movie. John Rocha, do you like this maneuver as John Krasinski taking over as director? Yeah. Very different vein than his directorial debut with A Quiet Place. Yeah. How do you feel about this?
Oh, I love this idea. And I think they combine together to do Manchester by the Sea. So they have a pedigree of being successful in creating movies that get attention both critically and commercially. And so to me, this excites me. This story is an interesting story. I'm of two minds of it because a lot of people were upset that this man got pardoned on both sides of the aisle. So there's a lot to explore there. And I really like when Damon has a juicy role to sink his teeth into, right? A lot of people don't like Syriana, Jeff being one of them. He was really good in Syriana. When he gets the chance to do these kind of darker, quieter parts, he's like, you really see the scope of him as an actor. And so I like this idea. It's an interesting time to make this movie as well. And I wonder if it'll get the attention it needs to get, because remember that Liam Neeson, Mark Felt film just like came and went, like nobody cared. And so I wonder if this will be the same situation, because not a lot of people know who Marc Rich is beyond the controversial pardon about him.
Jeff Sneider, do you think that the Marc Rich story is going to have legs in theaters?
I mean, we'll see if this one ever actually gets made, because Damon likes to develop a lot of stuff. I would say, though, that this is a return to form for the Damon that we all kind of know and love. If it does get made, he had a bad fall. He had Suburbicon and Downsizing. Those were terrible movies. We were talking about Jason Bourne before the show.
Downsizing is bad as I hear it is.
Yes, it is. It's real bad.
I hear it's good for like 10 minutes and then it just falls off a cliff.
Right.
It's bad. So if you're Matt Damon, you want to go back to Talented Mr. Ripley, The Informant. Yes. This is the kind of two-faced, slippery character, who's a bit of a con man, a bit of a huckster. I think that this is kind of perfect. He doesn't really look anything like Marc Rich, but I can totally see Damon wheeling and dealing and making trades and being in that world and the oil, working with oil people.
Plus, this is an expansion for Krasinski as well, right? Quiet Place is a smaller horror film. Not a lot of sets on that one. This is an
Broader in
expansion.
scope.
Yeah, broader in scope. And I feel this way about, and this feels like reminiscent to Affleck when he went and did The Town.
Yep.
Although it was all set in that town, it was really expansive with a story he was trying to tell. And so I'd like to see this progression. And I support any actor who's going to make this transition into producing and directing because he wants to be a brand in the business. And that's smart to me. We're seeing a lot of people now in multiple areas of media or whatever become brands, become moguls, whatever. You see Krasinski now exploring producing, directing, acting. There's more here involved, and I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, this guy, Marc Rich, he was a Holocaust survivor, and then he went on to have a lot of interesting dealings. He was dealing with Iran during the hostage crisis. He had a lot of cooperation with governments that weren't just limited to the United States government. What's interesting about this movie, if it comes to pass, is that Krasinski might direct, Matt Damon set to star. Can you guys name the movie that Krasinski and Damon starred in?
Promised Land.
Okay.
Damn.
Promised Land. It was about fracking. It was an oil movie.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Now they're teaming back up for more oil.
You better bring that to Collider Collision if you're going to win. You better bring that. If you think you're going to win.
I'm going to do my
Save
best.
that for the promo section of the film. In the meantime, something else to get John Rocha very excited is the announcement that Bumblebee, the Transformers movie that comes out this fall, is going to have a presence at Comic-Con. This is probably the first in a series of stories we'll cover in the next few weeks as to what movies are going to have a presence at Comic-Con, particularly in the noted Hall H, which seats about 6,000 to 7,000 people who are going to get first glimpses of apparently new footage from Bumblebee. Haley Steinfeld is one of the stars. She'll be there along with John Cena, Jorge Lindbergh Jr., and director Travis Knight. The panel is going to happen on Friday evening. John Rocha, where will you be Friday evening during Comic-Con? Is this enough time to get you ready for your stand-up performance at 10 p.m. at American Comedy Company?
It will be, yes. And I already have someone in line down there. One of my fans is already in line for me holding my place because I am not missing this. There is no way I'm missing. They're finally bringing a Transformers film to San Diego Comic-Con. I've been complaining about this for years amongst my friends that they weren't doing this, they weren't bringing it. And I think it's because they were afraid there'd be a backlash, there'd be booing or whatever. You know, sometimes that happens in these panels. So maybe they were afraid with the critical backlash to some of these films that they didn't want to receive the brunt of it from the fans. So this shows me that they have a lot of confidence in this movie. And that is a good thing to hear. They're going to bring footage. Haley Stanfield's coming, John Cena, and Travis Knight. So all these people are going to be down there promoting the film. So it's positive. It's going to be a fun little love fest. I think people seeing that it's going back to the G1 type of vibe are going to be excited to be there. So that's what you want to kind of launch this thing. But what's interesting also in the story is they're not bringing anything about Mission Impossible down. So that's a fascinating.
That surprised me, actually.
Yeah, right?
I think that's a timing thing more than anything
because
else.
it's coming out a week later?
Mission Impossible literally comes out the next weekend, and it's screening for critics as early as next week, I think. So I think Mission Impossible, it's no commentary on the movie. Excuse me, although I would not be surprised to see Tom Cruise make an appearance at the panel, if it's a Paramount panel. Paramount's working on another Tom Cruise movie, and it's called Top Gun 2 Maverick. What? And I wonder, they started filming, they're looking for Goose's Kid currently. I wonder if maybe Tom Cruise brings a snippet, a tease, something. Tom Cruise comes on that stage, brings some Top Gun 2 Maverick footage. Everybody gets excited. Jeff Sneider, I don't even want to ask you if we're going to see that. So I want to start with Bumblebee, and then let's get into our pipe dream of Tom Cruise actually showing
Bumblebee looks fantastic, okay? The trailer has made me cry. I've watched it multiple times. I can't help but tear up.
What makes you teary-eyed about Bumblebee?
At the very beginning of the trailer where he takes her hand and puts it on his face. I mean, it's heartbreaking. And then the music, actually. I think the score sounds fantastic in that trailer.
You seem to be welling up right now as you're talking about
I know, I'm getting emotional. This is like the first Transformers movie opening in December, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I feel like they weren't at Comic-Con before, though, because of timing. Like, these movies opened in mid to late June, didn't they?
Yeah, but you could always, the year before, they were already shooting stuff, so you could have brought footage.
I suppose, but 11 months is really early to be bringing that stuff out.
It just takes a long time to do these effects, so they were working on them for a long time.
I've never been to Comic-Con. I don't go to Comic-Con, so unfortunately I'm going to miss all this stuff. But I think that if you guys go see Bumblebee, Travis Knight strikes me as a special kind of filmmaker, and I imagine he has something cool up his sleeve for you guys.
All right, I should probably get like 10 to 1 odds making this bet, though. Do you think Tom Cruise shows up at Comic-Con for the Paramount
I do not.
panel?
Yes.
Yes, for Mission
like this
Impossible or
idea.
for Top Gun 2?
Top Gun 2.
Okay.
I love this idea.
All right. Well,
There'll
thank
be
you.
some footage.
Thank you very much, because I am the one that brought it up. The movie, like we said, opens up in December, and Bumblebee takes place in the year 1987. So 1987, you guys remember 1987. It was the year that Elizabeth Shue and a bunch of kids got into a lot of zany mayhem and adventures in babysitting. 3 years before that was 1984. Great year for music television, and movies. Great year for art in general. And the summer of 84 is the subject of a new movie, coincidentally called Summer of 84, and it just had its first trailer dropped by Gunpowder and Sky. The story follows a group of teenage friends in the summer of 84 who begin to suspect one of their neighbors is a serial killer who's on the loose. The film comes from Turbo Kid's director RKSS of Francois. What? I don't even know what that means.
These are the people
It's
who
a bunch
did
of directors?
Turbo Kid. Yeah, it's a filmmaking collective that did Turbo Kid. I
Okay.
believe.
Well, that's probably why you read the show notes before the.
I don't read, honestly, Riley. I don't read the show notes. I just know this shit.
Okay.
It's
right.
It's four directors, and
I don't know how that works.
Summer of 84 opens August 10th. I do know that.
They're not in
Four
the
different
guild.
directors. Yeah, but you see brothers direct sometimes.
Yeah.
And like you're like, okay, like the Duplass brothers, like, okay, I can see how you guys have a back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
The Russo brothers, that kind of thing. 4 people directing a movie.
Hey,
That's
man.
a band.
Spoiler alert: it worked out.
What do you mean?
So I haven't just seen the trailer, which Rocha and Ellis are about to talk about, but I've seen the movie. I
my
I caught it
gosh.
at Sundance.
What's the embargo on this one?
There is no embargo.
Okay.
It's at Sundance. It's screened to the public, to the press, whoever had tickets. And I really liked it.
Okay.
I mean, yes, you're going to hear, oh, it's just like Stranger Things or It or whatever, but there's no supernatural element here. It's basically they live next door to a cop who they suspect to be a serial killer. The question is he actually a serial killer, or are they just kids looking for adventure? That kind
Yeah,
of
it
thing.
seems kind of like a let's put some Rear Window in there. Let's put a lot of a Disturbia in there.
Yeah.
And that's more of that than Stranger Things. Like
except-
every movie that comes out with kids is not Stranger Things.
I know, but obviously you look at this photo and it's like it could be Stranger
I
Things.
see Stand By Me in the 80s.
Yeah, well,
I see that.
there's definitely that, and these kids have great camaraderie together. And is it Rich Levine? Who's the villain?
I couldn't even get
blanking on
one
the-
of the
Summer.
4 directors.
Right, Rich Summer. Okay,
Well,
I knew.
You have to do some more work
was
on your
close.
Schmodown
Yeah, I
stuff.
guess so. The guy from Mad Men, he really impressed me. This is definitely one that you guys should check out. It's probably going to be playing at your local art house.
He can't get out of the period pieces because I mean in Glow it's set in the 80s. He's kind of the a-hole in Glow,
Right.
and of course Mad Men as well is where he really came to prominence. And seeing him here, and it's interesting. He's an interesting character. He likes to play these kind of smarmy roles. So the trailer, I'm trying to decide if I liked the trailer or not. I think I enjoyed the beginning, then I got kind of lost in the middle a little bit, and then the end is kind of interesting as well because they're playing with tone. They initially start off like it's going to be serious, and then they play around with this idea that they're making too much out of it, blah blah blah, and then it becomes dark.
Here's
at
the
end.
question I have for you: what do you think of the '80s synth? Is '80s synth played out?
I love it. No.
I think that using 80s nostalgia is no longer good enough to just use 80s. Like, hey, look, we're in the 80s now.
Right.
It's got to be good. Like so the synth you have a shorter window to impress us, I think, with that, because we have seen a lot of things, and not just Stranger Things, but Stranger Things certainly the leader of the pack. We've seen a lot of that, and Wonder Woman's going to have the same challenge. Like, make us feel like
That
we're
would
in the
be
80s.
cool if that had a synth
It will.
score.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, look, that 80.
Ellis,
That,
I never even
Synth
thought
was
about
big
that.
in 1980. It was controversial for some hard rockers in 1984, but it worked out.
it's had a renaissance over the last 2 years. They call it retro new wave. You can go a deep dive into YouTube and find all these kind of 80s synth inspired type of tracks. I will spend a Saturday night sometimes for 2 or 3 hours because I love that synth stuff. Like you see the old school, like Michael Mann's Thief rather, with James Caan. That's a great synth score, and Drive did a fantastic job of bringing that to prominence. And so now you're seeing it more and more. But yes, this kind of retro new wave stuff always gets me excited. The film itself could be good or bad, but the soundtracks always kick ass.
Retro new wave, Ellis. Who calls it that, John?
They do.
Who's they?
Yeah, the people who create this stuff, like Krasinski and other people who are involved with it. I mean, I can play you some tracks after movie time.
all
if you
right.
like.
We'll have a dance party.
Well,
you got it.
I don't know if you dance to this one.
All right, so that's what you're doing on a Saturday night. Not more of a Tuesday or Wednesday night kind of
No.
treat for you. You take your Saturday night.
I'm usually at screenings, Ellis. So
Yeah. Hey, John Roga's not going out. He's inside listening to retro new wave synth. Look out, ladies. You got to come to him. He's not coming to you. We're going to save some time for your live Twitter questions. Go ahead and start tweeting us right now at Collider Video and use the hashtag Collider Movie Talk. I want to remind everybody that we have new Collider shirts available for purchase right now. Check out these beauties. The links are in this description, and it is only for a limited time from our friends at Bonfire. The campaign is going to end July 10th, so make sure you get on those this week. Even we had an all-new Heroes drop yesterday, and an all-new Schmodown drops later on today. And I do want to take some time right now to talk about our podcast feeds. Yes, this is the Movie Talk podcast feed. So you can check out Movie Talk on the weekdays. You can also check out Mailbag on the weekends, as well as Afterthoughts with Ryan and Jay. And there's a pretty fun show that John Rocha has taken the reins of called Collider Body Slam. When you're not listening to Retro New Wave Synth, you are a wrestling fan. Tell us about Collider Body Slam.
Yeah, it drops every Thursday afternoon. We recorded the day of, and we recap the SmackDown, Raw, NXT. We recap Ring of Honor, any NJPW stuff, all the stuff going on in professional wrestling. Me and Aaron Turner, my co-host down there in Orlando, we covered. We have great guests that come on: Jay Washington, Jen Decker. They've been on, Mark Donica. We've had numerous, and I've lined up other guests as well. And people from the world of professional wrestling are starting to notice the podcast and are excited to come on and be a guest. So a lot coming down. So yeah, on the Collider Factory feed, listen to us break down everything going on in the world of professional wrestling for that week.
All right, and you guys can check out the Riley Roundtable as well. Mark Riley talked to his friend Kai about aliens. Do you guys listen to? Oh my God,
It's madness.
It's so crazy. It's got to be true. I believe in all of that kind of stuff. Aliens, yay or nay, Jeff Sneider?
Yeah, I think Mark O'Reilly needs to check out who he's friends with.
Stop it.
Reevaluate that one.
All
You
right.
got to listen to it. It's pretty amazing. It's intense.
All right. Well, we are going to move on to your live Twitter questions. And speaking of that, we're going to be doing an all-live Twitter question show tomorrow in honor of Independence Day and 4th of July, so you guys can tweet us. We had set up a Twitter. We went on Twitter and we had like a thing, hey, reply here. So you don't need to tweet like me or Rocha or anybody else. You can just tweet. You can just respond to that, and that's how we get the Twitter questions, just so you know. Maggie Ledbetter kicks us off today, and she says, if a movie is going to be made about your life, who would you want to direct it? Who would you want as the cast? And what is one moment in your life you would definitely want included in the movie? And for added fun, she also tossed in that the other two panelists on the show here today have to play somebody in the movie.
Oh!
So this one's going to take some time.
Oh!
And I like where this is going. So either start with the moment in your life. What's the moment in your life that you're making a movie about? Rocha's got a lot
I'm
to
saving
remember.
it for the actual Jeff Sneider movie.
You can't even tease this.
Coming soon. It was when I got the job here at Collider, guys. That was a big moment.
Oh, Jesus.
All right. So the panelists we're just playing ourselves.
No. Let's see. I would have Richard Linklater direct it,
Nice.
and I would cast Marissa Tomei as my mom.
Okay.
But what are we playing?
But she keeps her clothes on in this movie.
Okay.
She keeps her clothes on in 95% of her movies.
Does she? Yeah. Okay.
Was there in Spider-Man Homecoming?
Actually, in Spider-Man Homecoming, yeah, she doesn't have a nude scene, John.
I'm just saying she keeps her clothes on in most
I'm
of her
saying
movies.
I ended
My
up
cousin
Googling
Vinny,
this with
clothes
a
on.
friend recently, and if you Google the actresses with the most sex scenes, like legit actresses with the most sex scenes, Marissa Tomei is at or near the top.
I would fear Kate Winslet is
Just
close.
letting you know.
Well, now we know what you do with your Saturday night, and I think that actually John Rocha wins the Saturday night contest
Thank
with
you.
his new wave synth. What moment in your life are you going to highlight in a film?
Beating Dan Murrell for the title, of course. That's the moment. Everything will lead to that. Everything leads to him. But yeah, I would have Michael Bay directing the film. Absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely directing the John Rocha film with Hans Zimmer doing the score. I know you didn't ask that, Ledbetter, but I'm going to tell you, Hans Zimmer's going to do the score, and that's the moment. Mark Ellis will be Mark Ellis calling that match. Jeff Sneider will be the angry guy in the crowd, mad that I beat Dan Murrell and he didn't. That would be that's the roles there. But it would lead from my childhood into that moment and all the stuff I went through in the military, and then boom, that's the like the crescendo of the film.
Did you ever have to pull a code red?
I can't talk about that on camera.
A few good men. We want the truth, Rocha. I would
handle
make a movie about it'd be about the formation of Schmoes Know. So it'd be Marc and Christian, and the director, obviously, who's really good at making online web-based movies. Of course, David Fincher would be the director of the movie. We get Trent Reznor to do some scoring for it as well.
Fincher, I feel like that's a nice, happy movie about Christian and Marc coming together. You'd have Fincher direct that.
Yeah,
The
Fincher.
Social
That's
Network,
a
baby.
miscasting.
The Social Network. He just told the
That's how
story.
you see it as?
Yeah, this is the Social Network creation, and I'm going to keep going down. I will die on this hill, ladies and gentlemen. David Fincher is directing the Schmoes Know creation movie, and Sneider and Rocha can play the.
Can I play John Rocha?
I would like to play Jeff Sneider.
You cannot play each other. You
Come
guys
on.
can play two of the waiters at CPK, where Christian and I first started talking about making a YouTube channel.
That's hitting a little too close to home for Rocha
That's right.
now.
I'll probably have to audition 6 times for it to say those 2 lines.
All right, we're gonna-
Rocha actually didn't get that job at CPK.
Would you like to see our specials, sir? Yeah, there you go.
you guys ever had jobs in the service industry?
3 months and never again.
Yeah, where?
Chi-Chi's, a Mexican restaurant.
I
in-
remember Chi-Chi's.
Yes,
It's a
Springfield.
celebration of food.
That's right. In Springfield, Virginia, I was a waiter for 3 months. Hated that experience, being told what to do. I've never been good at being told what to do, even though I was in the military. I had a really hard time with that. And the moment I quit was the moment I wasn't even working his table. He is reading he's reading his book. He takes his empty glass full of ice, and as I'm walking by, he shakes it in my face for a refill. I went back into the service station, and I almost killed that SOB.
That's the outlaw.
That's right. It's always been there.
I have not had a job in the service industry, although I was in charge of the waiters at summer camp, at Jewish summer camp. And when you're in charge
Is it
of
called Jewish Summer Camp?
Yes.
Is it called JSC?
something like that, can you imagine though your staff? You oversee a staff of waiters, and they're all 15 years old.
Yes.
Okay. And you're waiting on the most spoiled, entitled Jewish brats on earth.
How old were you? Like 30?
I was like 19.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you're like, hey, man, when you guys get to college, it's a totally different ball game.
Something like that.
All right, Jeff Sneider overseeing the crew. Don't eat the food at JSC. We're going to move on and try to get this show back from its current AWOL status. J. Scott St. Clair says, what are the most memorable credit scenes before the advent of the post-credit scene?
Like the credits themselves?
We can go credits themselves and go post-credit scenes. There were post-credit scenes before. There were like little teases right at the end of a movie.
I like the end of 7.
God damn it, Rocha. Are you kidding me?
Nailed it.
That is taking
Nailed it.
Lord's name in
Totally
vain.
stolen from me.
Because it goes backwards.
That's right.
And it's like etched into the
And
credits.
it opens with Spacey as John Doe.
Yep.
Too.
Exactly, which is
God damn it,
fantastic.
Rocha.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 2 of the commandment no-nos for Jeff Sneider. Apparently, he did not
okay.
pay attention to Jewish summer
I
camp.
have another one. Okay, I like. You know what I really like? Scream, when they show the cast photos.
Yeah,
I like
that's cool.
those movies. Yeah, that's a good technique.
Yeah,
I like the
okay.
song
Then
over
I
the
would
end.
say the outtakes of Liar Liar are pretty
my God.
second to none when it comes
Yeah.
to
Hangover. Those were good credits. Right?
Hangover had good
Yeah.
post credit scenes. Yeah, with all the pictures and stuff. There was a tease of a sequel at the end of Encino Man where Pauly Shore puts on sunglasses like Arnold and says I'll be back, but they weren't back. At least not yet. I'm still holding out hope for that movie. And maybe my favorite credit sequence of all time is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Just the 4 of them riding off into the sunset. Sulla, Marcus Brody, Indy, and his pop, and they're laughing about how he was named after the dog, and they just ride off into the sunset forever. And it's such a great closing to the trilogy. Thank God they never made another Indiana Jones movie.
Can I add one more on the pile?
You may.
Armageddon, son. That ending Armageddon where she's getting married and they're doing all that stuff. That's an awesome way to end that film. And any Jackie Chan post-credit sequence where you're seeing all the stunts that he does, really incredible to watch.
All right, Tronin is up next, and he says, what is your guilty pleasure movie that most people consider terrible? His is Grown Ups.
That movie is terrible.
He's a big Grown Ups fan.
I actually really enjoyed Grown Ups.
You're insane.
Yeah, no, I really
Won't see
did.
the Lego movie, but this he loves. Okay.
Yeah, because I am an Adam Sandler devotee, and I just love spending time with those guys. I love spending an hour and a half with him and Spade and Chris Rock and Kevin James. Like, sign me up.
Do you see those pictures on Twitter over the weekend of Adam Sandler crashing a wedding a wedding photo session?
No, but now I'm jealous. Now I wish I was getting married.
Yeah, there were 2 people taking pictures in Toronto, and behind them, Adam Sandler just walks up, and he's got like a weird mustache. I don't know if it's for a role or whatever.
Yeah.
It's typical Adam Sandler. He just comes up and says hi, and so he took a bunch of pictures with him, and seemed like a nice guy. So Grown Ups.
Yeah.
Jeff Sneider also voting for Grown Ups. You hate Grown Ups, so you have to pick another. I guess you can take the Transformers movie.
No. Hudson Hawk.
Oh, that's bad.
I can't explain it. I can't explain why I love that stupid ass movie, but I do every single time. Him and Danny Aiello have incredible chemistry. I still will randomly yell "Bunny Ball Ball" in the middle of the day for no reason because of that. And Sandra Bernhardt's hilarious. Richard Grant's hilarious in that film. And for whatever reason, I just like that. Plus, you get James Coburn, for God's sakes. That's just mean. Yeah, I love that film.
All right, I'm going to take If Looks Could Kill, starring Richard Grieco.
Oh, man.
Great kind of James Bond spoof. Some movies hooked you when you were at an impressionable age, and I will always have fond memories of If Looks Could Kill. It's another Michael Corbin who's the secret agent, but they don't know that until it's too late. Arwar or something.
What about Mobsters?
Mobsters with Christian Slater.
And Richard Grieco.
Oh, yeah, Richard Grieco was in Monsters.
that
That's
thing.
right. That's right. Solid flick. All right. Grant says, what is your favorite song that has been used in multiple films and the scene that you attach that song with the most? For him, he's going to drop some knowledge on everybody. Okay. Max Richter on The Nature of Daylight. It's used in Arrival, Shutter Island, Stranger Than Fiction.
Yeah.
So is there a song that stands out to you guys that has been used in multiple films?
Thus spoke Zarathustra. I can't say it. But it's the one that they use at the end of Excalibur when everybody comes together and la, 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 and they're all riding through and everything. That's Thus spoke Zarathustra.
Is that the Omen music as well?
The Jackass 2 when they're in the huge grocery cart.
When they're all riding around after they've gotten the sword from Guinevere, the Excalibur from Guinevere, and they're riding into battle. That song is awesome, and I've seen it in multiple movies.
Okay, Sneider.
I have no answer for this question.
You've no answer. You have to participate.
Pass.
You can't pass. You can't. There's no physical challenge here.
I don't know what song has been used in multiple movies.
All right, then I will go to the use of Panama in multiple movies, but the best one is in the classic movie Superbad when the cops, they pretty much just let McLovin do whatever he wants to, and it's a whole lot of fun. Panama makes everything better. Jonathan Kerr's next up, and he says, since 4th of July is tomorrow, what are some of your favorite explosions in movies?
Desperado. When him and Salma Hayek are walking away in slow motion from that explosion, that's pretty incredible.
Blown Away, okay? When the bomb goes off underneath a bridge and you see it in Jeff Bridges' eye, you see like the mushroom cloud. Yeah, that's
I was going to say, is that the one with Tommy Lee Jones and Jeff Bridges or the Blown Away with Corey Haim?
Obviously. The one about the bomber where there's a lot of explosions. That would be one of my favorites.
All right. I would say the most impressive explosion that I've seen that I can think of offhand is what? You know which one I'm going?
Yours. I'll save mine.
Okay. I'm going to go with The Dark Knight when Heath Ledger's walking away from the hospital because they had to do that in one take. Mm-hmm. Like they're literally blowing up a hospital and it's hard to piece that back together if something goes wrong. And he became the Joker, and in that scene he just knocked it out of the park.
I was going to say the end of The Professional when John Reno gives him the grenade thing. This is for Matilda. And then boom.
That's the best French accent I've ever heard.
That's an amazing.
How about when the two trucks slam into each other in Matrix Reloaded?
Okay.
On the highway, and then also in the first Matrix when the helicopter smashes into the building.
Explosions.
No, because into the building it explodes and it's and she slams into from the swinging on the rope, right? She slams into the side of and you see it from there. It's pretty cool. Explosion.
Okay, well, as we say goodbye here today, I do want to mention that Jonathan Peck reminded us. What are your thoughts on Back to the Future turning 33 years old today, this week? Back to the Future 33. Does that make you feel old? Does it make you feel young, like a kid again? Back to the Future, way back in 1985. John Rocha, what does that say about us or Back to the Future?
It's a great movie, and I will never be able to love it as much as I did before the Triple Threat match, because Calvin Klein I will always rue Calvin Klein. So unfortunately, I can't love it as much as I would love to, as much as I loved it before. But it's a great film that still holds up. It's a nice time capsule of the 80s when we felt we were in a more innocent time, more fun time, and it's a film that makes you smile always and makes you feel good by the end.
Seems like the Schmodown's really affecting your life, whether it's positive or
You
negative.
think?
It seems like,
Very high and low.
You think?
seems like it's pretty much all tied in to knowing movie trivia, which you do know a fair amount. Jeff Sneider.
Back to the Future, one of the holy trilogy of the most overrated franchises of all time.
Oh, my God.
Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, James Bond.
Wow, that was just a nice big bucket of haterade you dropped on the end of this show. Is it? Now look, I've said this too. Is that I think that Back to the Future 2 and 3 are okay, but the first one is an all-time classic.
Sure, whatever you say.
Wow.
And you think Indiana Jones and James Bond are also overrated?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Well, maybe he's more of a book guy. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Collider Movie Talk. Because it is 4th of July tomorrow, let's, even though I don't like him right now, Jeff Sneider, where can the kids find you?
At the Snyder on Twitter
Where
and
can they hate
Instagram,
tweet you?
and sitting across from John Rocha at the Collider video offices.
John Rocha, where can everybody find you?
My
when
life-
you're not listening to New Wave Synth.
My life has definitely changed with Jeff Sneider to look at every day. But you can find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And today, the Top 10 show dropped. We count down the top 10 comic book duo, top 10 duos.
You don't even know what you're talking
I'm
about
sorry.
in this show.
It was a difficult title. The top 10 duos in comic book movies. My friend Shannon McClung stops by. He's a
A
writer
lot of
and
people have been
actor.
begging for that list, so tune in.
Yeah, well,
Who's
they
a
do.
duo
They
in
do,
comic
Jeff.
book?
They do.
Who's a duo in comic book movies that would be like in the top 10? Is that like do Iron Man and Captain America count?
No, but Iron Man and Spider-Man could count because of Homecoming.
Okay.
And of course, Black Widow and Captain America could count in Civil War.
Okay.
In
We'll
Winter
have
Soldier.
a special up next about all the duos that can count on this list.
Yeah.
I am merely Marc Ellis. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Collider Movies. I'm going to remind you guys I'm going to be performing at San Diego Comic-Con right after you guys see that first glimpse of Bumblebee and maybe Top Gun 2. You can come on over to American Comedy Company at 10 p.m. It's me plus special guest, maybe somebody else on this desk. We just don't know yet. You guys can get tickets at markellislive.com. Use the promo code SCHMOES. And until then, we will see you guys very soon here on Collider Movie Talk, like tomorrow for our special all-Twitter episode. Don't miss it. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Hey everybody, Marc Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.